The Friday short for November 1st of 2024. The final EPIC-MRA Detroit Free Press presidential poll for Michigan released today shows Vice President Kamala Harris with a 48 to 45% lead over Trump. Now that coincides with a Marist poll released just hours prior showing Harris with a 51-48 lead in the state. That Marist survey also shows Harris with 2-point leads in both Pennsylvania and Wisconsin. Good news, but still very close. Now, I did find this little nugget somewhat interesting. EPIC-MRA pollster Bernie Porn says the percentage of undecided voters in the state is so low that it's negligible. It's below 1%. So it seems like everyone's mind is made up. And let's be honest, if your mind isn't made up yet, I really don't know what else can be done for you. Now, as we delve into some of the poll's numbers, Harris has been able to increase her advantage with black voters in the state by 18% since August and is now getting around 87% of the black vote, which is close to what Joe Biden got in 2020. I guess it means the narrative that Harris was having trouble getting the African-American vote appears to be subsiding a bit. Kamala's support among women voters is now up 5 more points as she has a 53-42% lead over Trump with that voting bloc. However, he's leading among men around 48 to 42%, which really isn't all that bad for Harris. Although, after the election, I'm going to have a lot to say, and I'm going to have a lot to delve into when it comes to what is going on with male voters. But even bigger news from the poll is that Democrat Elissa Slotkin owns a 5-point lead over MAGA Republican Florida Mike Rogers in the crucial U.S. Senate race. Slotkin and the Democrats really need to win that race if they're going to have a chance to hold on to the Senate. Now, Florida Mike's campaign has no one to blame but themselves so far as they struck out on trying to paint Slotkin as some kind of an extremist for what? For supporting the automaker's decision to build more EV cars. Okay, don't know why that was always extreme, but I was being told that was an extreme position. So now, since that didn't work, Florida Mike is desperate and has adopted his dear leader Trump's attacks on transgender Americans. And it was such a desperate and disgusting and vile move from the guy who once tried to paint himself as a moderate. And thanks to a great article by the Detroit Free Press's Neil Rubin, let me tell you this, there are a grand total of two trans girls playing Michigan high school sports. 2. And this is something Trump and MAGA are disgustingly telling people to be scared about? What, are you guys crazy? That just goes to show when you have 0 popular policies, you turn to hate. And hate is what we saw at that fascist MAGA Madison Square Garden rally for dear leader last weekend. It was all about hate, and it's all about hating how the world is changing. And let me piggyback something I said at length in this week's episode. Please check that out, by the way. I refuse to believe that's really what America wants anymore. They're tired of MAGA fascism. I refuse to think the pushback in ruby red MAGA areas around the state this year in which MAGA extremists lost in recall elections for county board seats, I refuse to think that just happened in a vacuum. Michiganders are tired of the MAGA playbook, featuring no solutions and featuring just hate-filled grievances. That doesn't help the people. That's why Michiganders are voting for Harris, Slotkin, Democrats for Congress and for the State House, and also for Kyra Harris-Bolden and Kimberly Thomas for the state Supreme Court. It's a signal that we're not going back to the MAGA majority days because we can't afford to if we hope to give people an equal chance of making it here in the country, and if we hope to save our democratic institutions, principles, and ideals. And judging from these latest polls, it appears like others are agreeing with me and not going back. But you can't just say it, you've got to show it. And you show it by voting. As President Obama says, don't boo, vote. leftoflansing@gmail.com is the best way to reach me. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and the Gram. Subscribe to Left of Lansing on YouTube and subscribe to the show wherever you get your podcast and give it a good 5-star review. For additional voting information, visit MichiganVotes.org. Take the battle to them.